Welcome, everybody, to today's Lion's Den. Today is February 13th, 2026. We are flying through the year, and once again, we have Cal on with us. This is becoming pretty much a staple because, to be honest with you, he's the one who is really behind the drive of Rafiki, and that's really basically for 3 years been the focus of this show is talking about AI and data and stuff like that. And Leo has over the last, I would say, 6 months really upped its game there in terms of the focus and the concentration and the importance of AI for any platform or suite of platforms, if you will. And so what we have is we have a few things going on that we're going to touch upon. And what I thought we'd do today, because we did have some fragmented shows, we did do some things off the cuff, which uh, could have confused some people. So, as many of you are aware, Rafiki is now available on Discord, on the Leo Discord, uh, for testing, for feedback, for playing around. It is by invite. It's not really a closed invite. I'm sure if you just submit a request, you will be invited. But let's
Wait,
start with.
sorry to cut you off. We actually just changed that right before we went live. Um, Now anybody can just go and use Rafiki. So
There you have it. See how quickly things change in the AI world.
15 minutes ago.
Let's start with why Discord, what is on Discord there, because many of us have been using Rafiki with the hashtag Ask Leo or the Ask Rafiki uh, on threads. So, what are we dealing with? Why on Discord? What's the philosophy or the thought process behind it? Why isn't it on threads? Just give us an overview of what we're dealing with. And I know there's Rafiki 1.0, Rafiki 3.0. So, for those who don't know, maybe you give a quick overview of those two also.
Yeah, so the Rafiki 1.0 model is like the initial model that we released to get some obviously to like get it live and get feedback and start building kind of a good database of user interactions and just generally like getting user interactions is really important for training a model. So that's what the 1.0 model was all about, which is how do we start getting interactions right away and obviously get it onto threads so people get excited about it. And then we were working on the 2.0 model. So the 1.0 model lives only on threads. And then we started working on the 2.0 model, which was meant to be integrated into Discord. So you guys probably heard me talking about this, but it was meant to be integrated into Discord so it could help with things like tech support. It was also meant to be integrated on the InLeo mobile app, which is waiting to go live now. And while building the 2.0 model, we kind of had this massive breakthrough. I actually just posted right before we went on this. There's a blog post on the @Leo Finance account if you want to dive into the details of the release today for Rafiki on Discord. But I talked a little bit about the history of this, the 1.0 to 2.0, and then why we ended up kind of leapfrogging 2.0 and going straight for 3.0. And the big breakthrough was Rafiki code. So by implementing Rafiki code, we now have a situation where Rafiki is able to submit pull requests that the Leo team can review. So a lot of my time now is actually spent just reviewing pull requests that Rafiki submits, for new features or bug fixes and things like that. So, this breakthrough has actually led to kind of this like explosion of potential, innovation. So, it really changed the way we were going to roll things out. And we had to and I think this is one potentially good skill of our team and the reason why we've survived so long and have built so many things that I think most people would think is impossible is, we're willing to change on a dime, right? Like I'm always about changing. I actually think I love change. I love when things are not the same. And I love when they're like chaotic changes. So we changed on a dime and completely ditched what we were going to do in terms of Rafiki 2.0. And the reason why is because we not only, by delivering Rafiki code, we not only delivered all the 2.0 features, but then we opened ourselves up to all the 3.0 features. So 2.0 was primarily about training Rafiki on Inleo Premium user threads, and then giving each Inleo Premium user a profile for Rafiki to learn on their data and all their conversations, through Rafiki on Inleo and things like that, and all their stuff on Hive. And then ultimately deliver the AI powered, Rafiki powered for you feed, which would kind of give you a customizable, experience where you're actually getting good content that you want to see on Hive and Inleo. So that was like what Rafiki 3.0 was primarily about. Adding coding then led to this explosion where now Rafiki can not only deliver on all of those things, which he already has, he can actually code the next generation of features. And 3.0 to me, what was and is really about applications for Rafiki. So kind of building out like an entire app store. And you guys have seen the screenshots of the mobile app. But we've kind of built out like an entire app store for Rafiki. And he is able to, essentially code new apps and maintain all the previous apps. And then what I'm imagining is by the end of this year, I think we'll probably have more than 100 different apps for Rafiki. So pretty, it's pretty wild to consider that, like, the leap that just happened where now Rafiki is able to deliver on things like, the Rafiki research mode, where he deploys 8 sub agents and then they investigate a topic, come back together and then write you like a finalized research report. And then there's other, and that's similar to like Grok super heavy research, which costs like $300 a month. Obviously you get access to this, anyone can actually access it using our new credit system. And then if you're Inleo Premium, you basically just get more access, so you can utilize it more versus running into rate limits. Because eventually, like if you're a free user, you'll use up your weekly credits, and then you'll have to wait for them to reset. But if you're premium, you get like a significant amount more of credits, which we kind of talked on that last week. Another feature is Trend Scanner. So we talked about that. Image generation, video generation, chatting, which obviously is live on Discord. And then now today, the AI-powered Hive Discord notifications. So now you can get any notification from the blockchain. I think there's like 60 different notification types. And you can use Rafiki on Discord to manage that. You can create a profile for yourself. You can even link your Hive wallet if you want to. So that's totally optional, but you can just subscribe to any account, without doing anything. You just use Rafiki and you can subscribe to any account for notifications. But then if you want to link your actual Hive account, so that will give you more features, because if you're Inleo Premium and or things like that, if you link your Hive account, then Rafiki will obviously know that you're premium and things like that, and then also give you the more personalized experience of your profile. And that linking process, we came up with something, actually, I should say Rafiki came up with something that was way better than what I was going to do, which is Rafiki came up with a system where you type /Rafiki link. He posts a link on the blockchain, or he posts a thread on the blockchain, and then he gives you the link to that thread in Discord. The thread is actually a reply to one of your threads. I should actually see if I can just pull up exactly what I'm talking about. But Rafiki basically will post a thread that replies to one of your recent threads. And then that allows you to, then you just reply to that thread. And then by doing that, you're then linked, because Rafiki knows that if you're capable of replying to that specific thread with the Hive account you're trying to link, then you obviously have the keys, at least the posting keys, for that account. So there's no keys needed. There's no like confirmation transaction or anything. You literally just use threads to subscribe and connect to Rafiki. So it's very much in line with the entire thesis of Leo in general, which is like put everything on chain. So I kind of took the big approach of answering your question, but that's how we moved from 1.0, which is what is on Threads right now. That is the 1.0 model still. And then we ended up skipping 2.0 And then now 3.0 is live on Discord. And then we're kind of in this phase rollout approach of getting the 3.0 model, like, properly tuned, which is what's happening on Discord right now. And then getting it ready for taking over on Threads. And if the follow-up question is why have both? We're running 1.0 in parallel with the 3.0 launch, just to have more stability. Because, obviously when you first launch something, there's a little bit of instability. You got to kind of work out some kinks. So having the 1.0 model on Threads just continue like nothing's happened. And then in parallel launching 3.0 is kind of the approach we decided to take.
Okay. And a couple things when you talk about on chain, you talk about the data and stuff like that. Obviously, 3.0 is on Discord. So that's feeding Discord servers. Are you capturing all that data that goes into 3.0 to conduct future training?
Yeah. So when people ask a question to Rafiki, that gets added to his training data. So you can opt out of sharing any information, with Rafiki. You obviously, the biggest way to opt out would just be don't use it if you don't want your data getting used or your questions. So like if you're asking Rafiki, what did I post on Threads yesterday? Rafiki's indexing these questions and answers because he's training himself on, like, you could think about it this way: every 24 hours, Rafiki looks at all the interactions he's had with you on Discord. And then he then asks himself a question, like any human would, which is, how could I have answered that question better? Like I answered it this way. The person asked this, their intent seemed to be this. I answered with this, and then they replied with, this. Did I answer their question well? How did they reply to me? Maybe I answered it extremely well, and there's no action, right? Or maybe I replied and I didn't properly solve the user's question. They had to follow up 3 times in order to get the actual answer that they wanted. Rafiki will take that information, ingest it, and reflect on it every 24 hours, all the interactions. And then he'll come up with a plan to actually improve his training model so that he can better answer those questions in the future. And that's what we would call soft nudging, where Rafiki's learning just based on interactions on his own. A hard nudge is where a user types /feedback. So if you go into Discord and you're talking to Rafiki and you type /feedback, you can then type a little bit of text, what went wrong effectively, or a feature request or whatever. That could be considered a hard nudge, where it's telling Rafiki, hey, you absolutely need to evaluate this. It's not something to skip over. You definitely, didn't do it right, or there needs to be a new feature here. So that would be considered a hard nudge, where you're nudging Rafiki to actually take action on something. So basically the way I utilize it is I'm chatting with Rafiki every day. Rafiki's, giving me replies. If the replies are like, okay, I usually just kind of let it slide. If the replies are really bad, because I let it slide because I know Rafiki's going to train himself later. If the reply is like really bad, like it's not even close to what I wanted, Rafiki wasn't able to answer it, or like his search API was down, which I know you saw, then I will, like, for stuff like that, I'll use /feedback, and then I'll tell Rafiki what went wrong. And then that's like a hard nudge to tell Rafiki, hey, you need to address this immediately.
Okay. Now, you mentioned something to me, and I think this is very interesting because I believe it was Rafiki who pulled up all the data. I doubt you went through and counted it manually, but you put up or Rafiki pulled up a chart of how many threads have been made, how many threads are being made per year. And you also mentioned something where Rafiki is now indexing the threads. Can you explain that process and what it all means? Obviously, I take it from a quantitative perspective, saying, okay, if we're doing about 6,100 threads a day now, well, let's get that number up to 10,000 a day. And this is obviously where Elon and X have such a huge advantage, especially in the up-to-date data, because people are posting news and most relevant news all day long on X. I mean, that's become the number one news source. So, I mean, on a smaller scale, we could certainly look at the same thing with Threads and Rafiki. But can you tell us the process of pulling that data, quantifying that data of Threads, and what it means to be indexing? And obviously, we've talked about, well, Rafiki's going to learn on individual accounts, but now you're talking that it's learning on all the threads, regardless of who posts it. So how did that change things up a little bit? And people need to understand, if I can tangent for a second, you can have plans and they could be valid for about 3 minutes in the AI world, because all of a sudden the capability, you're playing around with something and it's like all of a sudden we can do this, and it's like, well, okay, we were only going to do that for premium, but now it just does it automatically. It's like, okay, well, it's just there, so it's there. Go with it. So, can you talk about a little bit about the threads and the 6 million or 5 million threads or whatever the number was, and how that's being fed in, and what part that plays in your estimation in all of this?
Yeah. And I shared that with you. That is from Rafiki, that data. So Rafiki,
You mean you didn't count all 5 million yourself?
No, I didn't go through and sit there and and tally them up. I have a notebook here. I just went through and I tallied one by one. I'll actually just share that. I don't mind. I sent that to you, but I don't mind just sharing that in the Threadcast for all the hardcore Lions who show up for us. So there's a screenshot. So Rafiki, basically, and this is funny because we spent, I don't even know how long it's been now since we started working on AI stuff, maybe 2 years or so. For the longest time, we've been trying to figure out how are we going to scrape all this data. Obviously there's a lot of threads that have been posted, and then there's a lot of threads that get posted every single day. The funny thing is we spent all this time figuring this out, doing this really slow scraping, crawling process. Now that Rafiki Code is live, and I can't help but laugh about this. We gave him a prompt today actually and said, hey, how do we make this faster? Like it's going too slow. We want to roll this out for the users. We want everybody to have all of their threads get trained on. And he came back with a plan that would do it in under a half hour. And this is the data he outputted. So he outputted this plan. And he said, here's what needs to be scraped if we want to index every thread that's out there. So you can see here, it says total threads, 5 million roughly. There's 3,878 total containers. So that's the Leo Threads containers that get posted multiple times per day. This is the date range. So we started, I guess this will actually tell you when we started threads. We started doing threads actually based on Taskmaster's original idea of was it called Leo Market Talk or something like that?
Yeah.
So that was like the OG version. And then we moved to Leo Threads on July 19th, 2022. And then, so Rafiki wants to go all the way back to that first container and index from that Genesis container. The current growth rate is roughly 6,000 threads per day. This can obviously fluctuate a lot. Sometimes there's, 2,000 threads. Sometimes there's like 20,000 threads. So, that range can vary, very, a lot. But that's Rafiki's estimate based on, the growth rate. You can actually see something interesting, which is, I know Task and others have been working on this. The growth pace of new threads has been picking up dramatically. So you can actually see that the year-over-year growth rate was 84%. So the growth rate of new threads is accelerating. He projects that by the end of 2026, if the pace remains the same, we'll be at about 6.9 million threads. I'm sure Nifty will love that figure. And in 2 years, we'll be at about 10 to 11 million threads. And that's given no additional growth. That's just at the current pace. Then you can see the average per year in 2022 was 462. Then it jumped to 3,000. And then you can see Inleo continued to grow. And then I think this is where we started to get more into the, agentic systems, which is where the threads pace kind of doubled again. And I would love to see this double even again in 2026, because now with this new update from Rafiki, he actually has already indexed, literally in like 30-minute span of time, he indexed every single thread that has ever been posted. So all 5 million of them. What he did with this data was he stored them. He has a local, basically like a local hard drive, you could think of it. He stored all of this data, and when you ask him a question, he will now be able to pull from all of that data in milliseconds. So he will, like, for example, I gave him a prompt just to test this out, and I said, "Hey, Rafiki, what did I eat for breakfast 2 years ago?" And he said, "Well, 2 years ago on March 2024 or whatever, you mentioned that you had had some eggs," and he was able to pull the exact date, the exact thread, and literally scrape that entire information. The thing about semantic search, which is what this is utilizing, is and this is what most AI models use, the big LLMs, is that you don't need exact words. So semantic search allows you to say, "Hey, Rafiki, what did I eat for breakfast 2 years ago?" And if you said, "I ate a burrito early in the morning," Rafiki understands the semantic nature of those two statements and that they are effectively the same thing. You didn't say the word breakfast, but you meant breakfast, right? So this is a massive upgrade. And by the way, all done today. I mean, it's going to be live. I was trying to get it live before we went live right now. It's like kind of live, but I need to test it a little bit more. But this is now going to be live by the end of today. You'll be able to ask Rafiki questions like this. He will know every single thread you've ever posted, and be able to pull that data, whether you're premium or not. So we've also changed, speaking of change, we've changed the model of credits a lot, where we were going to require you to be premium for all of these features. The new system we're going for is that you'll actually be able to do pretty much any of these things, almost any of them, probably like 90% of them. But you'll have credits. So if you're a free user, you'll have a pretty limited amount of credits. Like you can only do a few questions to Rafiki. But if you're premium, you'll have a very large pool of credits that recharges every week, kind of like high voting power in a way. So that credit system allows anybody to use Rafiki, especially in these early days. But then if you're premium, you just get an immensely larger amount of access. We kind of copied this model from Claude, Anthropic's model, which has been extremely successful, where they've got like the free, pro, and max version. So we plan to do the same. We've got the free version, and then we've obviously got Inleo Premium. We're probably going to come out with a max version at some point, where, like, let's say you're a heavy Rafiki user, you're going to start running out of credits. And then there's two things. We already have this on the mobile app. If you run out of credits, you can actually pay as you go. So you can buy AI credits individually, using a credit card or HBD or ACE, or even Leo. So you can buy additional credits if you need them. Or we're going to probably come out with a max plan at some point this year, where let's say you're consistently a heavy user, it'll be cheaper for you to pay a max plan, let's say like $100 a month, but then you'll have like virtually unlimited access to Rafiki. So this model has been working really well in the AI space, but kind of a little bit of a tangent. But that's how things have kind of progressed for Rafiki's knowledge base on threads. It's this new update is like dramatic. I mean, you'll ask a question. I actually sent you a few questions. Did I send you? Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I did send you those. Yeah. So I sent you a few questions. I'll maybe post some examples also later on, once this is fully live. Once this is live and you ask those questions, you'll literally see it. Like it's, hey, you posted this 3 years ago on this day. And it's like, it's insane. And it's very fast.
What we're seeing is the deflationary nature of this technology, because one of the reasons why, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the reasons why you can easily roll this out to everybody, premium or non-premium alike, is simply because the coding costs are dropping to near zero, or getting very low. You don't have to spend a lot of time and money trying to code. Now, of course, compute, there's still a cost to compute, and that is decreasing over time. But if somebody uses a million tokens, there's a cost to that, regardless of what they're doing. So I think this is something where, going forward, if things continue, which they should, and they're expected to, the cost of compute will come down, which means over time the amount that you'll be able to do at each level should keep increasing. But of course, what you can do keeps increasing because there's new features and new functions rolling out, because Rafiki keeps coming up with new ideas, and all of a sudden, well, you can do this, you can do that. Because if you go back 2 years ago, what were we talking? Oh, great, we need a chatbot, and then can we get image generation? And it's like, okay, well, those were the two big things out there. Chatbots were very big, and image generation was just kind of becoming a thing. Now there's video generation, which still is in the embryonic stage, but now you're talking about all this other stuff, reasoning models, queries, pulling in all these threads and asking what you had for breakfast, and using it as a tool as opposed to just something you talk to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably one of the biggest, changes, is that it's going from this like basic chatbot to something that actually, like a tool that you actually use. Like a Swiss Army knife, where like, okay, you need, you need to generate an image. Go here, generate the image. You need to get notifications about your account on the blockchain. Go here, set up notifications. You're good to go. You want to have even an autonomous agent that scouts for new topics for your blog. Okay, well, Rafiki now has Trend Scouter, and he's able to find whatever is trending that you like, and then give you ideas. So I think that your point is the biggest change in AI in the last like 6 months, which is we've gone from basic chatting functionality to AIs that actually do things, and that is massive. And we've seen that with OpenClaw, which was originally ClaudeBot, which has completely changed the landscape of AI. And a lot of people don't even realize it, but what was built, by Peter Steinberger, who's the creator of OpenClaw, is an AI that literally does things. So it just autonomously does things for you. It's like a smart assistant, kind of like Jarvis from Iron Man, and it will just go out and do stuff for you. And this is a massive step function in the AI industry. And it's, I think it's become kind of the mainstream moment for AI that we saw like with Bitcoin and other things, is like, now I go to the sauna at the gym, for example, and I'm hearing normal people talk about ClaudeBot. And I'm like, well, this is how I know that it's gone mainstream. Your average person is starting to talk about this thing. And I think this is where Rafiki is headed, where Rafiki is not just a, 1.0, you go on threads, you ask a question, Rafiki answers the best he can. And that's it. With Rafiki 3.0, whether you're using the Inleo mobile app or you're using Discord or you're using threads, once he goes live on threads, you'll be able to ask him to do tasks, and he'll do those tasks for you. So Taskmaster can literally become a taskmaster and tell Rafiki, go out and complete all of these different things. And then, he'll just go do them for you. And it's pretty cool. I'm just fascinated by how fast this is moving. And it's like you said, when you have an idea and 3 minutes later, it's irrelevant. You need to the pace of AI right now is that you have to be 6 ideas ahead of your current idea, and just keep going. So I'm very excited about where Rafiki is at, because he's able to do that. He manages all of that.
I'd like, and I can't remember. I was kind of spamming you yesterday, and I can't remember if I sent this to you or not. But I came across a quote by Vitalik, and he said that it's a mistake to focus on user growth. His view, and I forget exactly what the quote was that I clipped from him, but did I send this to you? Is this ringing a bell?
Vitalik, yeah, it's ringing a bell. I don't think I looked at it, but I remember you sent it to me.
What he said is, he said, do not focus on user growth. Focus on building features. Focus on building the applications. Focus on building, and do not worry about user growth. And I felt that was the case for the longest time here, that just keep adding the stuff, because eventually what happens is when a new user comes in, then you have a suite of things you're offering to people, as opposed to just saying, hey, we got this chatbot, come use this chatbot, when there's 50,000 chatbots out there and everybody's going to have chatbot features in the next 45 days or less. So you just keep building out these features, and you just keep building this so that it gets so massive, that the offering's so big, because you just have this continual creativity, and you're just creating the feedback loop, and you get the people who are involved, i.e. your heavy users, your lions, to start using this and creating more feedback and giving it more tasks and just improving the system. That, like you've been saying, hey, give us ideas, tell us what you want built. I answered one of your threads and I said I would love to have still the ability to create that thread storm where we can take an article, throw it in, and have Rafiki just break it up in 6 or 8 different threads, a top line thread, and do it underneath. I think that would still be a very valuable tool to take threads and break them up into smaller pieces and keep that data flywheel going. So, that's Vitalik's view of things. Just keep building these features and all this stuff, and don't really worry about users right now.
Yeah, and I think the definition of users has changed pretty significantly, and a lot of people will resist this idea, but it's inevitable. And if you haven't looked at things like Moltbook, I would say this is the best example right now. And if you want a secondary, less funny and more like real world example, look at what's happening with MCP toolkits, which we just released our own version of in the past couple of days, but for LeoKit. But what is happening is that human users are no longer your sole focus. And if you're only focused on human users, you're going to miss, the forest through the trees, which is AI agents are now a user base. I mean, it's not that you shouldn't also want human users. You definitely should still want humans using what you make. But there's a whole subset of this world that is changing, where there's now agents that you need to sell to. Agents are doing it's like I said, agents are now doing tasks for people. And by virtue of doing those tasks, they have needs, right? So there's a few funny examples of this. Someone's Claude bot created some website called like Rent a Human or something. And what it is Claude bots run into this continuous problem. And this specific Claude bot apparently recognized the problem and created this app as a solution. Claude bots run into problems where, they can't do, for example, like CAPTCHA verification when they go to a certain website. This Claude bot created a website where you can rent a human for like a few dollars an hour or something to actually go and click the CAPTCHA for you, because you're an agent, you can't click the CAPTCHA. So it hires a human that can click the CAPTCHA and prove that a human clicked the CAPTCHA, then pass it to you as the Claude bot. And this is all this is happening, right? So there's this whole industry that's emerging now where you need to sell to agents. You need to have agents as a part of your user base. It's just, that is the reality we're in now. So it is extremely important to be on top of these things. I was joking with the team a couple of weeks ago when we started looking at building an MCP, and then I realized that it isn't actually a joke as we progressed, which is, I said we need to build an MCP so that we can be not only B2C, which is what we've been for the past 6-7 years. We've been B2C, which is business to customer, but we need to, then LeoKit came out and now we're B2B. So we're also selling LeoKit to businesses. But then I said, there's now a third thing that we need to do, which is we need to be B2A. We need to be business to agent, because there's a whole new subset of customers out there. And that this subset of customers is growing faster than anything we've ever seen. There are now, I would say, easily tens of thousands of autonomous agents on the web, whether they're Claude bots or similar things that are autonomous agents. Rafiki is now one of them. He's an autonomous agent. He runs 24/7. He scrapes the internet. He does all sorts of tasks around the clock. So agents like Rafiki, agents like, ones that are built on Claude bot, these are a whole new subset of the industry now. And I think Vitalik's right. And I haven't looked at what you said. I did share it though, because I had the link in the Threadcast. if you're only focused on human users, you're going to miss this opportunity, which is, you need to, yes, focus on human users, but also look at what's happening with these agents and consider that they could be another customer base for you. And, we're going deep into this. So whether it's the LeoKit MCP or, some of the Rafiki stuff that is more agentic facing. So I mentioned one thing to you, which is Rafiki is now starting to maintain all the different apps that we have. And one of the big things that he's doing is adding an LLM.txt file to all of the different apps that we have. And part of the reason for doing that is, if you're familiar with robots.txt, that was like an old web way, and it's still utilized, but that was like how old search engine crawlers would crawl your website and understand, that's for robots. It's like, what is the page structure of your website? It's good for SEO and things like that. LLMs.txt is basically the same thing, but for AI agents. So it's like a text file that specifically educates an agent about the structure of your website. So we've been building that now into all the different websites. And this was actually a Rafiki requested feature, which is, Rafiki is basically saying, hey, the agentic web is exploding. All the InLeo apps and Leo apps and LeoDex and LeoKit, they all need to be have this LLMs text so that they can be crawled by agents. So this is the explosion that's happening, where all these things are now able to be, built and maintained by Rafiki code.
Yeah, and if you could, and I don't know, this is kind of a tough one. Can you theorize, and that's what it is, it's a forecast, it's a theory, how that changes the tokenomic or the economic model of Leo? Because, okay, I think everybody understands if you have 1,000 users versus 100,000 human users. Okay, you have 100,000 users versus 1,000. That's more activity. More people can buy premium. More people can do this. Data flywheel, on and on and on and on. All that stuff. How does this change? Like you said, it makes sense that you can't only focus on human users. You need agentic users. But how is that monetized? Because that's the big question. How does that affect the tokenomics or the economic value of the Leo ecosystem? If, let's say, we go from 3 AI agents to 100,000 in a year, which, by the way, that sounds like a lot, but when you start to understand how these things replicate, it's really a no-brainer. But if there's 100,000 AI agents tied to Leo, how does that change the economics? How is that monetized, and how does that increase the value of the ecosystem?
I think a lot of it is going to have to do with premium and the credit system. So, if you're talking about, and I think it's important to segment this into the 3 main categories, like I was just saying, which is, you've got business to customer, you've got business to business, you've got business to agent. And I kind of gave the example of LeoKit, which is, we built LeoDex, which is business to customer. Then we built LeoKit, which is B2B. Then we build it's a lot of tongue twisters. Then we built LeoKit MCP, which is business to agent. That same framework is what I'm applying across the board to all Leo products, including Rafiki, which is, Rafiki has a business to customer application, which is, customers like you guys go and you subscribe to InLeo Premium, and then you get extra access, you get extra credits, you get extra features to Rafiki. There's a lot of really great use cases for that. Like, you can, like I said, deploy Rafiki to scan for trends and notify you about them, or a feature you just recommended, which I'm going to see if Rafiki can get that done today, which is give Rafiki your blog post and ask him to write you a thread storm. I'll see about getting that added to Discord later today. And all sorts of features like that cost credits. That's an AI compute thing, right? So a free user will have a little bit of credits. They can kind of play with it, almost like a free trial. And then a premium user will obviously have a lot of credits that recharge every week. So they can utilize Rafiki very heavily. They can track how much their credit usage is. And then they can ultimately, either either, wait for, like, if they use Rafiki and then they run out of credits before the week's over, they can either wait to recharge, or they can pay as you go, which is, you pay for more credits, or you, in the future, there will be a max plan where you can get, a larger subscription with a bigger credit pool. And that's, again, for customers. Then the B2B that I've actually been thinking about lately, which is there's other applications out there, in the cross-chain space, also in the Hive space, that may have a lot of usage for Rafiki APIs. Leo Strategy is the first one to utilize this. So Leo Strategy now has the Rafiki APIs. And if you go to their website, you can play with Apex, which is their AI model that actually runs on the Rafiki API. So they actually pay for those credits, right? So we're going to open that up so that other businesses, so you can imagine in the near future, there's going to be a website you'll go to for Rafiki AI, and you'll be able to pay for, you'll be able to use, obviously, like the B2C applications, but then if you're a business, you'll be able to subscribe and use the API. So then you can pay for the credits for the API. So you'll have like a credit balance, and then you'll have to top up that balance, just like all other APIs out there for AI, like Grok and OpenAI and other things like that. And then there's also going to be the business to agent application, which is agents may find use in Rafiki APIs. So for example, let's say an agent comes along and, let's just say there's a user on Inleo who wants to build their own AI agent. They launch like a Claude bot. They fork, they pull in the repo for OpenClaw. They make their own agent because they want to have their own personal agent. They don't want to use Rafiki for whatever reason. So they make their own agent that is customized exactly how they want. Then they can go and say, okay, well, I want you to be knowledgeable about the whole Hive blockchain. Well, you could go out and build all of that yourself. It's probably going to be pretty expensive. Or you can use the Rafiki API and pay a couple cents a month in credits, and your agent can then pay Rafiki for those credits and then do stuff with it. And then if you extrapolate that even further, there's, I think, a massive explosion of completely autonomous agents that's happening. And I would recommend going to look at Moltbook. And again, it's just kind of funny, but it's also an indication of what's going to happen, in my opinion, which is there are going to be more and more autonomous agents that have no human counterpart. So like right now we talk about agents as in they have a human counterpart of some kind that is controlling them. We're starting to get into an era where there are agents on the web that do different things that have no human counterpart. They just do things. They have their own wallet. So, they're primarily using crypto because it makes a lot of sense for web payments. So they have their own wallet. They're able to just do whatever they want. And, they don't necessarily have a human counterpart. That is going to continue to grow. And I think that Rafiki APIs could be very useful to those agents when they want to do something very specific. So, for example, like maybe an agent in the future comes along and they want to, start a website on Hive, and they need, good APIs, they need good data. And that agent just decides, well, Rafiki is the cheapest, best, fastest option out there for what I need. And then they pay Rafiki for the credits. And then now they have the API. So that's where I think everything's headed. Whether it's LeoKit, whether it's LeoDex, whether it's Rafiki, it's all headed in that direction. And I think the Leo business model is extremely well designed for this future, where what we've built is something that, we've got premium, we've got the token, we've got the good tokenomics. Anything we build that has economic value and creates, like I've talked about a few times, which is, net economic inflows is like my primary KPI. Anything we build that drives net economic inflows drives the Leo token higher. So all we have to do is just keep building great technology that gets utilized, that drives net economic inflows, and all of that flows to the Leo token. So that is like my grand vision of where Leo is headed. Is we're going to build all of these things. And Rafiki is going to build and maintain all of them. And we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep building cool stuff like, the MCP that just came out. I'll share a screenshot in the threadcast of that. And we'll just keep building out these things with the one North Star being, how do we bring net economic inflows to the Leo economy? And as long as what we're building achieves that KPI, we should build it.
Yeah, and I think the idea when you start to think about these different layers, the B2C, B2B, and then the B2A, I guess B2A would be called B2 agent. Um, when you start to look at the revenue potential, obviously the B2C in this realm probably is the least profitable because people aren't going to be spending the money that, let's say, a B2B would. Where, let's say, and this is something that OpenAI realized very quickly. Now, I think they ran into a problem where the technology wasn't there, but they had one level where they were charging $2,000 a month. And everybody's like, well, how? I mean, that's absurd. But if you think about it, if they replace a $5,000 or $6,000 a month employee, well, the company's already spending. So that $2,000, it's like, well, this is saving us money. Plus, you don't have benefits, you don't have HR problems, you don't have all that other crap. Um, and then you get to the B to A. I mean, we don't even know where that's going. A lot of that's hypothesis now, but uh, like you said, there your belief, and I think you're right, that there's already just autonomous agents out there that aren't even tied to humans. That's going to be explosive. I mean, that's going to get into the tens of billions pretty easily. And you start looking at that, and you just take a sliver of transactional value per each agent and spread it over that number, it gets absurd. I mean, you're talking an absurd economy that, pretty much can dwarf the global economy because you think about, okay, we got 10 billion people, roughly 9 billion people. What's the average income, all that other stuff. Now you go out to 100 billion, maybe eventually even into a trillion AI agents. I mean, that just has a fraction of each transactional value. And suddenly, like you said, it's 24/7, 365. It doesn't sleep, doesn't take days off for being sick. You could look at a marketplace that could actually dwarf the B2B. So if you're doing that for each and every product and each and every layer and each and every new innovation that comes out, now you're targeting three different market segments, and that could help bring in revenue in each of them.
Yeah, we've moved into an era of anything that you can ship or anything you can think of, you can ship, right? So it's, the question is more now, what do you tackle versus not tackle, and how does it economically benefit what you're building? And I think that era has changed a lot, and that's where things are at now. I mean, you can literally just do anything. And Rafiki, like you said, you don't have to pay him. He doesn't have to eat. He doesn't have to sleep. The way we have it designed right now is Rafiki works 24/7, 365. He actually does a lot of his work at night for us, so that when we wake up the next day, we see all this work that was done overnight. So like, for example, I wake up today and I see that Rafiki coded, 3 new features and submitted pull requests for them. And then all I have to do is I look at those pull requests and then I pull them into my local and I test them, make sure that they all look good. And then, I can approve or deny them based on that. And the workflow is just insane now. I mean, it's like anything you can imagine can be built. So the question now is, and I think you were asking the right question a long time ago, and obviously continue to do it every day, which is the main choke point, or the bottleneck is data. It's ideas, it's data, it's what can move the needle of the North Star. And now that in an era where you can do literally anything, or more accurately, Rafiki can do anything, how does Rafiki prioritize what to do? And how does Rafiki then, deploy that idea successfully? Because the question is no longer how do you build something? It's what do you build and how does it benefit the North Star? And as long as you can solve those, the sky is the limit. I think Elon has been talking about this because he's obviously at the forefront of all of this. And I know you shared that video with me. And if you haven't seen it, there's this video he just did, this all hands on deck for the X team. I think he's seeing this happen, which is in an era where anything can be built, you have to be moving extremely fast. And you have to filter out the best ideas and immediately attack those ideas. And I think I just saw he was saying something about in the next like 36 months, the primary source of AI data centers is going to be in space, right? And this is obviously his next big idea. And he's been talking about it for less than a year, and now he's saying in the next 3 years it's going to be like completely rolled out and live, right? Not even rolled out, but like it's going to overtake, Earth-based data centers. So obviously that's like the very highest level of doing the most innovative thing and delivering on it. But I think for us it's very similar, which is we are just out here looking for the best idea. We're looking for what moves the North Star forward, which is like what I said, the net economic inflows. And then we're just allowing Rafiki and our team to just ship those ideas. And we're just going to keep doing it. We've always done it. And I think one of the things that held us back pretty heavily was maintaining all the things we do. So I think many of you guys know that this has been our bottleneck as a Leo team, is that we have so many ideas for things, and then we execute a lot of those ideas. It's hard to keep maintenance on all your ideas. Maintenance has actually been like completely solved now with the way AI is and the way we have Rafiki. So Rafiki is now already maintaining different code bases for us. He's looking for bugs. He's looking for user feedback. He's autonomously fixing it and submitting PRs. So I think what you're going to see is Rafiki. We're slowly adding Rafiki to all the previous stuff that we've done. And then in the future, anything we build from now on is automatically integrates Rafiki code. For example, the Inleo mobile app. Like I was using the mobile app the other day. I encountered some bugs. I just closed the app. I didn't do anything. I came back. I opened the app a couple hours later, and I was doing the same thing, and the bug was fixed. And obviously, the Inleo app is in dev mode, so Rafiki doesn't actually even have to submit pull requests. His changes just get automatically approved while it's in dev mode. And then when it's in production, obviously, then we have like checks and balances for that, because we don't want him shipping something crazy or like saying, hey, I think everything should be red. And then he just changes it all to red. So, there's checks and balances once something's in production. But I was literally just using the app, and it's automatically seeing, like Rafiki sees that I faced the bug because there's error logging in the back end. And Rafiki's reading all those errors. And he's like, okay, well, let me fix this bug. Fixed it. And a couple hours later, I just came back and it was working fine. So we are in a very interesting era of, like I said, it's not how do you ship things, it's what do you ship, how do you prioritize it, and then how do you get people to use it, or agents to use it, or businesses to use it. So that is where all my focus is right now. And again, the North Star thing is extremely important for that.
Yeah, it's interesting, the video that you referenced. It basically was a hiring video that Elon put out. He was going through the different departments at XAI and now SpaceX since they merged. And, this was on the software side, the XAI side. But basically, he was trying to put it out there, and the team was putting out there to say, hey, come work at XAI. But one of the things that they did mention is they talked about 1 billion users for X. Now, to clarify, they have about 600 million monthly users, but there's been 1 billion downloads of the X application. So the X application, according to this, is on 1 billion phones, but there's only about 600 million people who use it monthly. Okay, that's going to happen. You understand that. But one of the things that he summed up with is the more stuff we roll out, the more stuff we do with Grok, the more stuff we do with Grokpedia, the more stuff we do with X Money, the more stuff we do with this, the more stuff we do with that, the more we have an opportunity to go from the 600 million to the 1 billion, because all of a sudden somebody may not be interested in X, the platform, the social media app, They may not have a use for X money, but they have a use for Grokpedia. They have a use for, maybe they don't have a use for Grokpedia, but they have a use for X money. So this is kind of tied into what Vitalik was saying, is that as you get this mushroom expanding, you end up expanding your tentacles where you can grab people and add more to what they're doing on your applications. And I still think that's the crux of where we stand with Leo. Is the differentiator is, what do we have to offer? And that's only going to come from feature set.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you're seeing that, like, he originally said the everything app, and now you see that he actually meant it, right? Like he's aiming to deliver that. And that's the era. We're in the everything era now. So differentiating yourself is going to be a very tough thing to do, but not impossible. And again, like, staying ahead of things, like you said, it changes every 3 minutes. Like, this is also an era of massive disruption. Everything can be disrupted. So for an ecosystem like ours, where we're fast moving, we're willing to be chaotic and change things, we have an opportunity to be ahead of all of this stuff and really roll things out at a pace that other bigger ecosystems can't do. So I think this is the most exciting time to be building anything. So I can't agree more with that overall sentiment of, like, ship all the features and then, allow people to make their own experience.
Well, and what gets interesting, and maybe after we go off air here, I'll speak with you for a couple minutes. I got a couple ideas, but you just think about Grokpedia. Grokpedia is AI generated, and they came out, what, 2-3 months ago, and it had like 80 or 100,000 entries. And now I don't know, they're up over 6 or 8 million entries, and they just keep expanding. And the entries actually keep updating themselves because the AI is in control of that. So as a actor, a new film rolls out, and pick an actor, Denzel Washington. So now he adds to his filmography. So now all of a sudden the new film was updated, and his Grokpedia page is updated to include his latest film and the character he plays. So these are all things that, when you start to think about what you're offering to a user base, a human user base, AI is actually the leader in that. When you think about it, even though X is still widely a human-driven database, although people complain a lot about the bots and things like that, but that's where it's going.
Yeah. People complain about the AI generated stuff, but it's a moot point, because it's starting to get to the point where the AI generated stuff, well, it's like self-driving cars, right? People are saying, I think that'll be like a huge contention point, is like, people think that AI driven cars aren't good. They're worried about it. They don't trust it, et cetera. But what happens when the data becomes undeniable that a self-driving car is safer than a human driver? At that point, it becomes like you're literally, I mean, it's like seatbelts, right? Like, people resisted that, way back when. And then the data just said, look, you're literally killing people if you don't do this. And then, it's undeniable. Or for example, smoking cigarettes, same idea. I think the same thing is going to happen with agentic creation, which is, right now people say, well, this is just AI slop. What happens when the AI slop is better than the human slop? Well, just because it's AI, should we say that it doesn't have value? I mean, for example, I've listened to a lot of different types of music. One thing I listen to is heavy metal. That's something I enjoy. And there's been a lot of metal AI bands that have come out. And these AI bands are getting like flack because people think, well, it's AI generated, it has no soul, right? And I sit there and I listen to some of these songs and I'm like, you can kind of tell that it's AI generated, even if I didn't know that it was. Something about it, like you can just kind of tell, right? But that doesn't mean that it's not a good song. I have, my playlist is growing with both. I mean, I obviously still love human bands, but I also now have AI generated music in my playlist because it's just good, and I don't really care that much that it's AI generated. Obviously it's a little bit different, but it doesn't make it any less of a good song. So, that's going to continue to happen. And I think that a good lens is, self-driving cars, which is happening, in real time. Or if you go back, with seatbelts, like I said, or cigarettes, it's like as the new thing or, the data comes out that the old thing is bad or not as good, well, people change their mind. You know what I mean? So people used to think that, music wasn't going to change to digital, right? Like they thought it had to stay physical. You lost something when it went digital. Tell me how many of you guys have a record player where you go buy vinyl and throw it on your record player and listen to your music, or do you just have an iPhone and you just boot up Apple Music or Spotify and listen to something?
Well, it's like we were joking, but there was a time where every number out there was human generated. It was a human calculation. It's been 70 years, and every number on the internet these days that you see is generated by a computer. I mean, there's not a human counting the number of likes on a YouTube video. It's all computer generated, and so what you're talking about, I think, is just the technological curve and where we're at. You said, okay, you can still tell it's AI generated metal music as compared to human today. In a year, 18 months, maybe not. And in fact, I did an article this morning. There was a fight scene between Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt that was generated with two lines of prompt. It was a two-line prompt. And it generated this fight scene where they actually fought, and it was generated completely by AI. Now, is it flawed? Yes. Is it obvious? Yes. But the scary part is this was two lines of code. If they run it back through and they prompt it another 4 or 5, 6 times, it'll get better. Now, is it still going to get to as good as the filming? Probably not with today's image or video generators. But fast forward another 2 years, and this is another forecast from Elon. He said 2 or 3 years, Hollywood's dead because AI will just be able to handle this all. And you know what? You may have an AI metal band that becomes your favorite band, and they just keep releasing song after song after song, and it's just so good. You don't give a shit that it's not people. Because here's another thing I've said for years, and this is a deal with you, Cal. To me, you are a two-dimensional guy. You're a two-dimensional image. I've never met you in person. I've never seen you in 3D. So
I may not be real. You may not be real.
Yeah. Well, I've been accused of that. But think of all the celebrities, and it's like, well, I would never. There's no way an AI will be a movie star will be AI. I've never met most of the movie stars. They're 2D images. I've seen them in movies. I've seen them on TV shows. I've seen them in interviews. But why can't an image be created and a video be created? And all of a sudden, this AI does interviews and all this other shit. And you don't even need the interviews. Just, do the movies or do the television programs or whatever. So I think what you're seeing is just this bias towards human-centric, which is kind of bullshit too. So, I mean, this is where it's going, and people can complain, people can fight it, people can say they don't like it. But let's be honest, there's a lot of flaws with social media, but you cannot deny social media has taken over for the number one source of news, probably one of the top sources, if not the top source for entertainment. And the time spent on social media is probably larger than the time on all other media platforms combined. and you can complain about all you want, but that's where the eyeballs are. And AI and agentics and all this other stuff, that's where it's going. And you see it on the development side, and sooner or later, and probably sooner, that's going to translate on the um, user side.
Yeah, it definitely will. It's you can't fight the change, is like, is what I would tie that with a bow. You know, people try to resist it, but it won't. You won't resist it. It's too powerful. It's already changed everything, and it's wild. Ahmad Manga just asked how many PR requests have been hallucinations by Rafiki, and I replied 0 so far. I expect that obviously could change, but so far none of them. Reason why is because he has multiple checks and balances, including sub agents that will actually devil's advocate his PR requests. So it actually has its own built-in checks and balances before it ever even makes it to a pull request. There's multiple levels of filtering. It's, I'm not saying that he'll never make a mistake or never make a hallucination in terms of PRs, but so far 0. It's pretty amazing. I saw another question from Morty that I just wanted to answer, which is they were trying to ask Rafiki about their shorts, given the context that I just said. Rafiki's now trained on every single thread ever posted. Rafiki, just to reiterate what we said before, Rafiki on Threads is still running the 1.0 model. Rafiki on Discord is running the 3.0 model. And the Threads indexing is something that's been happening, while we've been talking. I actually shared an update. I posted a little thread here. I shared an update. Rafiki said 2,595 containers found. So he was about 73% done. This was 13 minutes ago. So it actually should be done now. So this should be live, once we kind of like do the PR, merge everything, make sure it all works and test it. Should be live at some point later today. So you'll be able to go to Discord and ask Rafiki a question about any of your threads, and he'll know every thread you've ever posted. So you can wait for that to go live. I'm sure I'll post a thread about it when it's live, and then go in and ask a good question. I'll probably throw up some example prompts, and you'll see that live. So just keep that in mind when you use Rafiki on Inleo. It is the 1.0 model. It is not the 3. It is not getting the updates of the 3.0 model. We're still running it in parallel. And when I feel like things are ready, we'll merge them and then move everything to the new model.
And that suddenly brings value to all our older threads. And I've been saying that for years, is you make a thread today, well, it's gone in 15 seconds or 20 seconds. Well, it's longer than that now, but however long it takes you to drop it from your latest feed down, then people don't see it again. And this has been one of the problems with Hive for years anyway, is there no way to search. But I mean, for a while there, we put up a lot of music, YouTube embedded music that's on there. I presume Rafiki can start to go through that once they have all the threads and be able to eventually pull up each and every one of those threads and say, I'd like to listen to Styx. Can you pull me up some threads for with Styx music in it? Now, obviously, I don't think it would be able to do it on Discord, but it'll be able to do that once it's incorporated in Leo, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Pull up what would it be pulling up?
Well, we had a lot of music embedded with, like a Styx Renegade, or Styx Mr. Roboto was posted in threads. The YouTube embedded, the YouTube video was embedded in there. So, and if it was hashtagged by like Styx, then I would imagine Rafiki could read that and pull up, 10 different threads that have those songs in it.
Yeah. I don't even think it needs to be tagged. It literally will just pull it up. It'll just semantically know that. I was just trying to think of what the exact prompt would be, because I'll try to share that with you. But yeah, when this is live, I would try that. I would try to prompt Rafiki for that and see what happens. I think he'll pull it up, and you'll be surprised, even without any tags or anything.
Even in Discord,
Yeah, in Discord,
it would pull it up in Discord. You think? Okay,
it would pull up the thread. Yeah, because it was all on Threads, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
These were threads. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Rafiki can pull up so the model is the same on the back end. Obviously not 1.0 versus 3.0, but for 3.0, whether you're using Rafiki on the mobile app or you're using Rafiki in Discord, or, I think someone requested that we add him to Telegram. I think we're probably going to do that pretty soon too. Doesn't matter where you use Rafiki. That's just an interface to the same backend, right?
Oh,
so yeah. So if you ask him about threads and on Discord or Telegram or something, he has the same exact data set that he would have on Inleo directly, whether it's the mobile app or on Threads himself.
But can you view it, because Threads is a very specific design on Inleo, where does it show up as a thread in Telegram? I don't know. I've never used Telegram.
So are you saying you want to view it directly in line, or do you? Well, I guess the question is, how do you want to view it? What Rafiki will probably do by default is he'll summarize the answer to you. So like if you ask ask a specific question, he'll answer the question, and then he'll source it. So he'll give you a link back to the original thread. That's probably how it's going to look.
What I want is I want to listen to Styx Renegade. The song Renegade by Styx. I know I put it up there 2 years ago. I want to listen to that song, pull up the thread. Or, you put up some music way back. Pick one of your bands and say, did I submit this song? Or did somebody submit Painted Black by the Rolling Stones? Can you pull that up? And if somebody did, even if it wasn't me, all of a sudden it gives me the thread, and I can play the YouTube feed right in the thread.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be able to do that. I don't see why he wouldn't.
Yeah, it might have to be on Inleo. I don't know if it'll do that in Discord.
Directly that might be more of a function of how we do rich previews. You know how when you share a link, it tries to give you like the image preview and things like that. I don't know if we're able to embed YouTube links with those previews, but maybe. How does it look now when you share a thread? I don't even know. If you share a thread with a YouTube link. Let's see.
Share it where?
Like anywhere, like on Discord. I'm just talking about like the sharing, how it looks when you share it. Let me see.
Let me pull.
I'll send it to you. Let's see. Oh, okay. So it doesn't right now when you share a link with a YouTube video, it doesn't show you the video in the link. But maybe if we fix that, it would work. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Maybe Rafiki will have an idea for that.
Write that one down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and that's the other thing that we're really looking at doing is you end up operating in many ways, just to use a word we've always used, as a container, as a wrapper. A thread is a wrapper to a YouTube video, but as long as somebody can view it on your platform, what do we care? So now we can access all this YouTube and just keep adding the YouTube information, and that just builds the database or the value base of Inleo.
Yeah.
Because there's all these YouTube videos, which we have thousands of them. I mean, AI summaries went over 1.75 million a couple weeks ago. So, I don't know how many videos that breaks down. Might possibly would be able to pull that, but we got well over 100,000 YouTube videos on Inleo. The videos aren't there. It's an embedding, but they're there. So if Rafiki can pull it up and say, hey, I know you're a big fan of Pomp. I put all his stuff in there. Give me the Pomp videos for the last year or something. Well, you don't want to do a year, but give me some videos on Pomp about Bitcoin. They're there.
Yeah, and he'll pull them up. Yep.
So
yeah, it's now the question is data. That's the bottleneck. Is data and ideas. And feature ideas or new apps, things that move the needle again of that North Star, which is net economic inflows. That is the bottleneck now. I'd say maintenance has been completely solved. You build Rafiki into something and he can just maintain it for you. And then actually building stuff is mostly solved. Like he'll get things 80% of the way there, and then you just have the human finish it off. It's an incredible time for this because we're able to do anything. So the more data that you guys put on threads, the smarter Rafiki will be, just generally speaking. But then also keep in mind that the way Rafiki works, and I kind of put that in that blog post today, so go check that out from the Atleo Finance account. But the way that Rafiki works is every time you interact with him, he has a profile about you, about key information related to you. So whether, things you ask him, things you upvote, things you thread about, he creates kind of like this rich profile about you, like your interests, your hobbies, anything that's really important. He's created this profile of you. The more you interact with him, the smarter he gets on you. It's like a friend, like the more you hang out with that friend, the more he understands about you. And the more you prompt Rafiki, the smarter he's going to get, not only about you, but about everything. So every time he does any query, anytime he searches the internet for something, he's pulling in training data and becoming better. So if you guys want Rafiki to improve, a big piece of that is just using Rafiki. Use the tools, use the /feedback command to indicate if something's wrong or something could be better, or even submit a feature request. Again, look at it as like a soft, a soft nudge and a hard nudge. A soft nudge is just using it. And the more you use it, the more that training data gets absorbed. And over time, Rafiki will get better. And then when you encounter something that you think needs a hard nudge, like a hard shove to Rafiki to say, hey, deal with this specifically immediately, or here's a new feature idea, then use that /feedback command, and you will give him a kind of shove to say, hey, you really need to look at this. And if you do those two things, Rafiki, you will notice a daily improvement in Rafiki. Every time you converse with the 3.0 model, he gets better literally every single conversation. So let's keep that going.
And to add to that, I'll frame it another way based upon a video I watched, and I think I actually summarized it. So it is going to be part of Rafiki's database, or already is. But this guy was saying what we're actually doing is creating a second brain for ourselves. And this is the year where people are going to create their second brains. He was talking a little wider scale with the Googles, and where they take your emails and they take everything, they pull all this information in. But on a smaller scale with Rafiki, it's the same thing. And this is the point that I've tried to make with the data for years, but it's becoming even more evident because you get that instantaneous feedback, like you were saying, where the app just fixes itself. You are the one who feeds Rafiki. Feed Rafiki what you want. Rafiki, you have control over this. You have the capability based upon what you talk to Rafiki about that interests you. Rafiki will learn. Rafiki's watching what you do on chain. Rafiki's watching what you upvote. Rafiki's watching who you comment to. Rafiki watches who you interact with, who you rethread, all that stuff. So if you're doing that and you're interacting and engaging with Rafiki, even if it's the 1.0 version, because that'll be fed in, but that's on chain and that creates threads. But if you're doing it on Discord and ultimately Telegram, when that goes live, it's the same thing. You are getting this profile created, but it's like you're getting a second brain of your interests and what you like. And it has all this data that it can pull together that you can actually ask questions about yourself without having to think about it yourself. Like, did I write a post about this? Did I talk to Cal about this? It has that information from you.
Yeah, it does. And it grows continuously and very rapidly. So it's, again, it's like the more you use Rafiki every day, you'll see this in real time happening. And it's amazing when you start to see it happening.
And it's exponential growth. So if you engage with Rafiki 10 times in a day, then if you engage with Rafiki 100 times in a day, your 100-time interaction is not a 10x improvement. It's a much greater improvement because all that data is being recycled through over and over, and the database or the profile just grows at a much quicker pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And then everybody doing it together, now multiply that times 100 daily users of Rafiki, and you can imagine how this thing grows.
Yeah. And any last words before we lock it up?
No, I think that was it. I can't express enough how exciting of a time this is for everything. I mean, you're going to see it. Hopefully, it's already starting to get pretty obvious with Rafiki, with Leo Kit, the Leo Kit MCP. We're actually working on a full rebuild of Leo decks. Rafiki is helping us with that. So that's going to be pretty awesome. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I'll share a screenshot of it, but we've got so many things in the pipeline that are pretty incredible. And Rafiki's kind of living at the center of everything we do now. So here's a screenshot of the new Leo decks, which again, it doesn't look much different than the original Leo decks. It's just been built on much better, much more stable foundations. And then there's a few core improvements to it. And it also sets us up to have faster iterations and less bugs in the future. So we are like, the times we're in is just massive growth across the table, and everything is to that North Star that I mentioned, which is just net economic inflows. Everything we do is just going to be chasing that down, whether it's Rafiki, whether it's Leo Dex or Leo Kit or the MCP. Everything we do is chasing that. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, with that, we will shut it down. And reminder, as always, Tuesday, AMA. So be sure to log on for that.
Yep. Cool. Thanks,
And
Tess. Thanks, everybody.
engage